Adaptability is the ability to pivot without stress and panic. It's the ability to adjust without losing momentum. The marketplace rewards those who can change, not those who resist change. But here's the truth. Most people don't really fear change. Most people fear losing the version of themselves that they're comfortable with. And, comfort is the enemy of growth. Adaptable people don't panic. They just ask. They say, okay, what is this trying to teach me? What are my options? How can I use this to my advantage? Just stay curious and always learning, and also surround yourself with innovators. It's just more relevant than ever to say, learn to evolve and reinvent yourself before you're forced to. Because, you don't want to wait until you're forced to evolve. All right, welcome back to the Daily Mastermind. George Wright III with your daily dose of inspiration, motivation, and education. And I'm excited today to get, first of all, I'm excited to be back in the office. I've been traveling for a little bit, and so I appreciate you being patient with me. We've had a ton of new content that's coming out with interviews and things I can't wait to release, but I've needed to get back in the office to be able to go through it. So today I'm excited to talk to you a little bit about adaptability and your ability to pivot and adjust and stay relevant, especially with AI and everything that's out there happening in the marketplace. If there's one truth about business, it's that everything changes. Markets are changing, technology's changing, consumer behaviors are changing. You've probably noticed that everything you do is getting questioned and adjusting. And the people who rise to the top, the ones who stay relevant, the ones who continue growing, are not the ones with the most resources or even the most talent. They're the ones who can adapt. And I really think you need to prioritize this whole topic, because adaptability is the ability to pivot without stress and panic. It's the ability to adjust without losing momentum. And it's also while staying grounded while you're shifting, because adaptability is not just a skill, it's a mindset. There's a lot to be said for how you approach this whole topic. And so, we'll get into it a little bit more today. And by the way, you got to just stay patient with me. I'm losing my voice a bit because I've been doing so many interviews and we've had so much going on. So I hope it will bear with me today and last. So let's talk a little bit about why adaptability is the new superpower. I really say this with sincerity, that you have got to learn how to be adaptable. In a world with everything changing, you have got to accept change as one of the drivers of your business. But here's the deeper truth. Adaptability is not just about adjusting to change. It's about anticipating, embracing, maybe even leveraging change. Because, people who succeed today are the ones that they stay flexible instead of rigid. They respond quickly instead of slowly. They remain curious instead of feeling threatened by changes. And they trust their ability to, rebuild and redirect. You've got to trust your own innate ability to shift with the markets. And here's the key. It's not just for pivoting. It's essential, really, to be adaptable. It's essential for your own personal growth, your leadership, your relationships, and even your identity. So your ability to adapt really determines your ability to evolve. We talk about this idea of the phoenix, which is my, logo for Evolution Group, and your ability to evolve is at the central heart of that, because the marketplace rewards those who can change, not those who resist change. And so most people resist change. And before we talk about how to actually become more adaptable, we've got to understand why so many people struggle with it, because you have to understand what's holding you back. Most people don't resist change because of the change itself. They resist it because of what they think the change is going to mean to them. So, for example, you might fear the unknown. The brain is designed to prefer predictability and certainty over uncertainty, and change introduces the unknown. I talk a lot about your ability as a business professional to live with uncertainty. And this is what it's about. Fear of the unknown. That's one of the things that can hold you back from accepting and being adaptable to change. Another thing is your identity disruption. Isn't it crazy how change requires you to think and operate differently and it challenges your actual identity. I thought I was doing this. I thought, we cling to these identities that feel safe to us. And when we're outside that, it really challenges us. Another reason people fear change is loss of control, especially if you're a driver. Change often feels like something's happening to you. And when people feel out of control, they react and they resist. But here's the truth. Most people don't really fear change. Most people fear losing the version of themselves that they're comfortable with. And adaptability requires letting go of your old patterns, your assumptions, your old ways of thinking. I just had a meeting today with my head of tech, and we said we can't base, our business is not accumulating. Sometimes we have to step back and innovate, and we have to stay relevant with the market. And sometimes that means changing. And, comfort is the enemy of growth. We know that, but adaptability is the gateway to that next version of you and your company and your identity. So let's talk about how you can create a blueprint for adaptability. And there's 3 core practices that I wrote down to share with you that I've learned over the years that I think even are more applicable today. One is adopt a growth-based identity. Adaptable people don't see themselves as fixed. They're constantly evolving. They don't say, I'm not good at that, or this is how I've always done it. They say, I'm not good at that yet, or what is the best way to do it now? A growth-based identity means you define yourself by the capability that you have, not by your current skill. Your capability to learn and grow and adapt is one of your skills. And so that's a pretty powerful mind shift you have to do. The second thing to really, truly increase your adaptability is you have to embrace these micro pivots instead of major changes. In other words, most people avoid adapting because they think it requires these huge changes, but adaptability is built in small, fast adjustments, sort of these micro pivots. And micro pivots might mean shifting your message or adjusting your daily routine or experimenting with a new strategy or refining your offer or modifying your habits or workflows or, learning one more new skill. But small adjustments compound into massive transformation over time. You don't need to overhaul everything. You just need to be able to pivot and make these micro changes. And then the last way I think that you can really truly become more adaptable is you got to train yourself to ask better questions. Adaptable people don't panic. They just ask. They say, okay, what is this trying to teach me? What are my options? How can I use this to my advantage? What would my future self do in this moment? What would the opportunity inside this challenge be? When you ask better questions, it creates better perspective. It's the same skill that you need to learn to use AI. When you ask a better question, when you set up a better prompt, you're going to get a different response. That's why your ability to do that will make such a big difference when using AI. So what I want to end with is just, how do you stay relevant in a fast changing world? Well, first you got to stay curious. Just stay curious and always learning, and also surround yourself with innovators. When you surround yourself with people that are constantly doing these things, questioning and having good new ideas and their ability to change, it helps you as well. If you have a team that's very rigid, we've always done it this way, that's never worked. That's the kind of stuff you don't want to be around. You got to be around innovative, change-seeking individuals. And then also build optionality into your strategy. What do I mean by that? Well, the most adaptable people are flexible because they have options. They don't bet everything on one approach. You've heard all this, go all in. Different topic. What I'm saying is, diversify, test, experiment, stay open nowadays so that you have options within the focused area that you are working in. And, it's just more relevant than ever to say, learn to evolve and reinvent yourself before you're forced to. Because, you don't want to wait until you're forced to evolve. You want to constantly be evolving. So this is my message for today. I hope you will really take this concept of adaptability as a skill that you can develop and realize that resisting change is not going to be helpful in you building and growing your company, but to slowly, constantly challenge yourself to go to the next level is one of the thoughts I want to leave you with today. So with that said, I hope you're having an amazing start to your week, and I hope you will head over to authoritymedianetwork.com because we have some awesome interview and authority building stuff for you. I know that if you're a CEO, entrepreneur, business owner listening to this podcast, you are constantly trying to build your authority. You're trying to cut through the noise and add that trust and credibility. And as part of that change, we have implemented new AI interview tools as well as authority building stuff that you can get over on that. And do me a favor, if you've learned or been inspired by anything in this episode, share this episode. We're super fortunate and grateful to now be in the top 30 podcasts in all of Apple for business entrepreneurship. And I think at the end of the day, it's a testament to you as a listener, as well as our community. So I hope you will take this information and apply it in your business. Hit me up on the Daily Mastermind. Let me know what you're working on. I will look forward to talking with you more again tomorrow. Once again, my name is George Wright III, and this has been the Daily Mastermind.